All right. Hi, everyone. So, welcome to the yet another session of Beyond the Code. We apologize. Well, let's start with all the apologies in one go, right? So, we apologize for being 1 minute late but this is how Portuguese
Uh,
people roll.
Herman's fault.
No, we had a technical difficulty. So, the gremlin that was doing this has been disposed of. And we also apologize for the sound last time. So, so indeed, there were some glitches and some overcompensation on microphones. So I'll start with me. I'm Miguel. Some of you guys already know me, and I'm ringing in from the Netherlands, which actually is sunny today. So I'm very glad to be here. Over to one of you guys.
So I'm Ruben. I'm currently in St. Petersburg and there's no snow, which is very strange for the time of the year.
Yeah, you have to sort that out, man. That's fine. It's feng shui, I guess. It's feng shui. All right. So we have, unlike last time, I think Ruben actually put out the ideas that we had for this conversation. So we kind of already gave away the plot at the end. But let's indeed start in earnest with the upcoming stuff. So those of you that attended Next Step probably heard Paulo mention quite a few things that would be rolled out in the first few months, and actually some of them later on in the year. So let's just talk a little bit about what our expectations are for some of these things, right? So
Yeah.
one of the things that was mentioned there was let's kick off with a complicated one immediately, which is branching. I don't know. Does anyone want to give like an overview of the status of branching and the philosophy behind OutSystems on this?
I will let Ruben talk.
No, I would actually welcome you to talk, Armand,
Oh,
that
okay.
you like so much this topic. So
Uh, branching. What can I say? I think it's a long needed feature, okay? Especially when you have multiple teams working in, uh, well, the same application. Yeah, the same application. You have multiple workspaces, multiple features, and there's all this. Okay, so this is very agile, and we can, we can have multiple teams working in parallel, and then you go to merge everything, and then hell breaks loose, which is very good, actually. For someone who has already faced that, will know that I'm with my irony meter to the maximum. But
Always.
always, obviously, okay. But I hopefully hope that they can pull this off, because if they can, and especially if they are able to do it for mobile applications as well, that will be indeed a very welcome feature.
Okay. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
just
just to
what.
frame
Sorry, Miguel. Go for
Just
it.
to frame things a little bit, obviously the official line from OutSystems is that so far they haven't really facilitated branching out of a philosophical reason of continuous integration, continuous delivery, and the fact that branches tend to live too long. And then the act of merging things back then it opens a Pandora box because the baseline is completely different. So they OutSystems always tried to make sure that people at all times are kind of testing the bleeding edge. The problem with the bleeding edge is it bleeds, and a lot of the times there's compelling reasons for people to experiment without having too much of a problem or too much of an impact in the baseline.
But there are actually also more down-to-earth problems, which is, first of all, branching is a concept that is hard to explain to non-developers, to people that come from the outside world of development, like the so-called citizen developer. This is a concept that is not easy to grasp, and they can actually make it exactly that happen, which is the branching to live too long. And even more down-to-earth problems is actually technical problems, because due to the references, due to the modules and so on, to what level can you actually do a branching? And I mean, if you are branching it's like in any other technology, you don't want to branch just one file. Sometimes you need to branch multiple files, and here in OutSystems, it would mean that you need to branch multiple modules. So how is that you branch multiple modules and still maintain a relation with the current running modules? So
Mhm.
it's actually not easy technical problem to solve as well, especially
Mhm.
when it comes to data model. So I think that that's also something that kept postponing it.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned here exactly the point which will be more interesting to verify how this will work is ultimately while running code, we probably can have it in different places, and indeed the personal areas that people used to run already foreshadow some of this. Ultimately, things need to be stored in the database, and always the database has been the common one. So even when you're doing personal kind of area development, there's always things that will force you to merge to, as it were, the trunk. It will be very interesting to see how far indeed is the cutoff point of these short-living merge branches that OutSystems will be facilitating later this year.
I will trust them.
Yeah.
I will trust them to pull this off. But yeah, those
Yeah,
are
it will be very,
very
very interesting.
yeah, those are very interesting challenges because well, most of the developments will be tied to data manipulation. So if you can't really branch data model as well, let's see, let's see. I think we have to try
Yeah,
it before we actually do something.
Yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah,
actually, this
absolutely.
is not the only feature that is coming
Exactly,
out or that is
exactly.
going to be a big thing this year. So, what do you guys
Yeah.
think about the workout to connector?
I don't know too much about that. I believe it's an iPaaS, right? So integration platform as a service, which I guess will allow people to simplify integrating with several things. I think ultimately this whole thing, and you see that as well in the AI connectors. I think there's a drive that OutSystems has been making in the last few years to make the platform generally more modular. I mean, when the company started in 2001, we thought we could do it all ourselves, and people would just bow to the might of OutSystems in every single feature. But obviously, the world has moved, and we're a lot more inclusive, and people and technologies have their own high points. And it's just saying that to be proficient and to have best of breed, you need to use these outside systems. So that's why a lot of teams are investing more in connectors than rolling in-house stuff.
By the way, Herman, did you notice that actually Miguel mentioned we as when talking with about OutSystems?
Oh,
It's
come on.
I think it's force of
Old
the
habits
habit.
die hard. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
No, not only you're talking, but you're pretty much like the same. I think I'm the only one of the three of us who haven't worked for OutSystems
Yet.
yet.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
But
but
I don't
I
want to
think
crush. Sorry
generally.
to interrupt. I don't want to crush your dreams because the topic is for things that will be launched this year, and you know that the workout was already launched, right? Last year.
Or was it? It was
Yeah,
But
already
during
out.
who
next
is
step.
using? No one is using, so it doesn't count.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
So it's still new
I
to
don't know.
everyone.
You can say that. You can say that because we don't know.
Yeah.
That not
Uh,
only that, but also the AI assisted development.
yeah.
Yeah, that one. I have
Yeah,
some questions about that one.
yeah. We are
Not
not
saying that
going.
it's not.
Let's bypass this topic because we don't want to. You know, we don't want
No,
to
I
crush
mean, I
any
will
dreams.
only believe in AI assisted development in OutSystems when I'm looking at the screen and I tell I want to do a fantastic application that will do this, and it suddenly appears. Then I'm like,
Hmm.
It's
Right.
supposed to
AI
help you,
rules.
not to just do miracles. Just to make sure we are on the same page. Okay.
Yeah, but in a sense, Ruben, you just touched upon something which I guess is some of the new features that will be coming, like the experience builder, kind of aims at this, make me an app kind of thing. But indeed, the nitty kind of suggestion of per node, I think I think there's still a little bit of a few quirks in terms of UI and usability. I think it will be interesting for newcomers. I personally haven't used it, so I don't know how good the suggestions have been. I think it's a nice idea, but remains to be seen to what level of developer it's aimed at.
Well, I would say that this is very interesting. This part, the workflow builder, not only that, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and the architecture planner, everything of that. These are more high-level tools, and this the target audience is most likely target audience that are using most likely nowadays already other no code tools. Imagine a Webflow, which is totally online and which you basically almost don't do any code. You don't
Mm-hmm.
need to do any code. It's just drag and drop elements and so on.
Same with Betty
Webflow is
blocks.
actually, yeah, exactly. Webflow, from what I'm aware, it's a little bit less extensible than the platform, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, there's a huge market on there that I would say that OutSystems wants to start also tackling it down. Because bottom line in technology is either you evolve and you become easier and better solving problems, or you are eventually a dinosaur.
And
Mm-hmm.
look, I get that they are trying to target the citizen developer markets. Okay, I strongly believe that every one of us at some point in our lives we were citizen developers. Okay, and then we started, going deeper and deeper in the knowledge, and then we pulled a bit away from that. But my concern with that is that eventually the citizen developers will build something with the builder. Okay, saying it again. And will reach it into a point in which they won't be able to do something, so they will require the help of someone who is able to do it in a kind of low code way, but not in a graphical way, or using the builder. Okay, and my concern is they might expect to be able to go back, okay, to go back to the UI builder again. Like, you just do this and then you go back so I can continue. And I'm afraid that this could be an expectation that might not be fulfilled. Not sure if you got
So
my
it's one
point.
way.
Exactly.
Like, okay.
Once you go code,
Yeah,
there's no
yeah.
turning back. Okay, but I'm afraid that the target people that will eventually see the benefit of such tool will want or will desire that you can do the other way around. But then you just
Mm-hmm.
boom open up Pandora box that could, you know, again break hell loose.
And by the way, Miguel, I'm not sure if you wanted to add something on this topic, but there's something that I actually wanted to ask you because you are
Mm-hmm.
a geek in architecture. What are your thoughts in? Come on, Armand, be polite. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts
For
in
the sake of this argument, let's say I am, whatever.
regarding the architecture dashboard?
Um, I'm not quite sure what to make of the deliveries. I mean, the architecture dashboard, the old trusted advisor, or no, do you mean the old trusted advisor, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the old trusted advisor. I think it's interesting. Depending, well, it's always useful, regardless of who is the person that's actually checking what are the results. For those who don't know, the trusted advisor started as an experimentation by the solution group in OutSystems to allow code analysis of the e-spaces and to give pointers onto the best practices. Maybe when we were missing max records, on when something was being some code was being repeated and maybe could be refactored, and so on and so forth. And it evolved. And I think, generally speaking, the need for compliance checking and quality checking is very important in software. And I'm glad that indeed OutSystems started it off. Now I think there's a couple of partners that are providing also similar technologies. I'm thinking about Omnext, Boncode. I think SIG or SGI, something like that. So I think it's for OutSystems, it's good to have external partners that also verify the quality of the code, and for the developers just to check if yesterday's delivery didn't induce more technical debt. So out of principle, I think it's a great idea. I think the tool, from the little that I've experienced, still needs a few tweaks to be as efficient, so you don't end up wasting too much time cleaning up yesterday's mistakes. It's the same thing as unit tests. So it's finding the point between the patterns that are detected being not having false positives and you drawing enough information, namely for more junior people, for them to look at and review their code. So I think it's a good aid in both sense, in practical and compliance verification senses.
Perfect. Oh, but you know one that I saw yesterday? Have you seen the new service center?
No. Is it out? I've heard that there was a new
Yeah.
phase going to be released.
Yeah. Yesterday I upgraded the server to take use of the EAP of the progressive web apps. And when I was looking at the service center, there was this brand new face on it.
Wow. Cool.
Okay, so we all have to
now we're
upgrade
curious.
now.
Yeah, you all have to upgrade. I'm not allowed to share.
And by the way, your experience with PWAs. Tell us about it.
Oh, I haven't tried it. I just upgraded yesterday. Sorry to
But
crush your dreams.
what features do you think that it will bring?
Hopefully, it will solve some of the problems and some of the requests that some customers are requesting right now. They are concerned about how to keep or how to have a kind of a single code base with not with the reactive web applications doing the development of the interfaces, the ability to do not have traditional web and all that logic associated, so it will increase the burden of development. So let's see how that goes. I'll have to try for myself first to see what we can and what we can't do. I know it's still on EAP. I know it's still early phase. So I have to try out before I just dig deeper and say something I shouldn't.
All right. Okay.
Well, one of the things that I know for sure is that although it's being called PWA, and I think it's due to the fact that it can actually be installed, as in a shortcut added to the home screen, an invitation to do so. For me, it still feels a little bit wrong because actually it still doesn't support offline.
But for you, everything feels wrong, so.
That's life, yeah.
Not only that,
glass half empty guy.
I'm sorry, but I have to say something here. I just saw that Miguel has a mug with his name on it.
Oh, yeah, I do have. This is an old mug from the days.
And with an interesting logo, if you notice.
Yeah, basically we in the training team. There's a story behind this. In the training team, we at one point after a delivery, we decided to roll mugs like these just with the name of people, and at the time we had the dubious idea of, adapting the OutSystems logo. I don't know if this is focused, which got us into a world of trouble because marketing doesn't like that people play around with the logos, etc., etc. So this one day is going to be worth a lot of money on eBay. I'm banking on it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But so before I get unceremoniously dumped from the community by showing an approved mug, there's as you guys were mentioning, there was also announcements of builders, both experienced builders, which is more like chaining together microflows made up of screens. So we've always had scaffolding that allows the rapid creation of screens. My understanding, and not having used this, the experience builder allows you to create bundles of screens with flow across them, and you can assemble these bundles into meta journeys. So that's sounds interesting, and indeed, as Armando said, might suffer from the generate now and I cannot go back problem, right? And they also demoed the workflow builder, which is more like kind of a case centric chaining together of activities and the evolution of their states. So it seems like a a built-in web framework to produce the kind of thing that BPT allows you to do. Also, again, I guess simplifying the onboarding process, which I guess takes us to the second subject, right? Which is the general simplification of coding and something that what are the pros and cons of this? Over to you, Ruben.
Yeah, well, I would name this section more like the dumbing down of engineering, but I don't think that is entirely related with the technology itself. With, in this case, with, for example, with this all of these low code, no code tools appearing, but it feels much more like a people's trend, a human trend. And when I say this, is I feel that people that I have been talking with, engineers, let's name it, engineers that I've been talking with, they are less and less curious, or they are less and less eager to understand how things actually work and to solve a problem because you actually understand how it works. And bottom line, let's put it ourselves in the following way. We work with platform, our systems platform quite a lot, not only, but quite a lot. This makes us essentially web developers. And I cannot understand how is that you are a web developer and you actually don't know how the browser works. I mean, it's not absolutely essential that you need to know piece by piece, that you need to know all of the lines of code, but you need to have a general idea of how the browsers work, what are the standards. And this, I feel it already for some time that people disregard. They don't know, and neither they are curious. It's like, what kind of things or who are you following in order to get to know the new trends of the market, of new technology, and so on. The majority of people say, no one. I read here or there, but I follow no one. I read nothing. It's to me, it's quite disturbing feeling that people are no longer curious.
Mhm.
Yeah, but then again, you have the tool tries to make it easier for you so you can focus more on the business, right?
That's important, but nevertheless, we also need to understand that we are our core business as individuals is technology background, but we are able to do cross the bridge and to understand the business because we have more time, but not knowing how the technology works. It's like the trend of people have a problem, they'll Google, they'll find a solution, and they'll use the solution, but without knowing how things work under the hood. It's like the solution that you find might not be actually the neither the best, neither the good solution.
Mhm.
Yep, exactly. But then again, I feel that, we are dealing with two realities here. Okay, so you have a huge shortage of talent, right? Everybody's trying to hire people to go for their needs. The problem is that you don't have enough people from the area, which might have, let's say, a computer science background or something like that. And then you have all these people that come from other areas that just is able to leverage the tool to do the developments, to comply with the client requirements.
Hmm.
But okay, I understand your point. Okay, I understand your point,
But
but at the same time, it's a kind of problem of the demographics, right? And eventually, when does that start to be a problem?
actually, the point was the people that I was actually pointing the finger at are engineers,
The engineers,
are
not the
software
citizen.
engineers,
Mhm.
not the citizen developer. Because the citizen developer, I can understand. I can understand that people will not have those bases, that knowledge will not have the drive. But
Mhm.
software engineers?
Yes, okay, but
I,
I
I,
think it's they're just being
I think
lazy.
I see what you're saying, but there is a middle ground that I think we need to, as a society or as a group of thinkers of in engineering, we need to try to find out. Because, to be honest, I found that my course, which I took like in 1749 or whatever, at that time, the Bachelor of Science that I took was 5 years long. Okay, and we covered so much fluff that's not of any direct use. So there is indeed a general good drive towards pragmatism. So that I think, and at the same time, I never had one single subject of how to do a presentation, how to do a technical writing. And I was in a very good university, and it made me, I believe, a acceptable engineer. But I could
Acceptable, yeah.
never acceptable engineer, and but I could never convey in a positive or a compelling way my ideas and what I was trying to do. So I do think there's a readjustation that's readjustment that needs to happen for these people, not the engineers, not to just be thinkers, but communicators and structurers and entrepreneurs, which I had zero of. But we might indeed be falling on the other side, which is still, these are the last guardians of innovation, of tinkering, of experimenting with crazy stuff, of not just reading Slack or Stack Overflow to fix the current problem, but actually looking ahead and following up with trends so they can augment in these. And then I agree, Ruben, that we see a diminishing of these geeks that are the guys who are going to take us to Mars and so on. Yeah, so I see a little bit an overcompensation from non-pragmatic to downright lazy, and somewhere in the middle we should want the pragmatic and efficient.
Sounds like you have your life sorted out.
Do I?
I don't know. I don't know, but sounds like you have.
No.
Uh,
Notice that I didn't give an answer. I just sort of said, I don't know, maybe we need to a middle ground somewhere. So
yeah,
someone
exactly.
will
Exactly.
think of that.
Yeah,
It's,
you
it's
just
a
started the
software engineer of
bullshit.
the 80s,
Yeah.
so Armand, you
Yeah,
need
yeah,
to.
that's how bad it is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm looking at the watch here. So another thing that we kind of promised between
Sorry,
ourselves was
sorry,
that we
sorry.
were
I
trying
have a
to keep it.
question. I have a question.
Yes.
When you took your computer science degree, did computers already existed?
Now we basically use the abacus. We learned to program the abacus.
Uh, okay, but you
So
look like you could
yeah. Now
still use
it's
the cards with the holes in it. Yeah.
no. I saw those. I held those, but luckily I never used them.
Sorry. I'm just
So
messing
not
around.
that old. So one thing, as I was saying, we're getting to round about the time where we wanted to pitch this one at
Exactly.
half an
Yeah.
hour. We kind of still have one dangling subject. I don't know if we tackle or if we leave it for next time.
I would suggest that we leave for next time because people that might be watching us will have better things to do and they can only be bored so much. Okay, so we just don't want to, we don't want to ruin their days.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and also actually, you still have 1 minute to tell about news, all right? About
Okay, so go
formats
for
and.
it. Those are small ones.
Okay,
Any
okay.
noteworthy?
I want to do a very public request. Okay,
Oh
so
my God. Here we go.
there's a contest going on, and the community manager of OutSystems, Andrea, was nominated for a prize. We will leave the link somewhere in which you can access it. Okay, so if you kind of that, yeah. So if you want, you can vote for her. If you don't, that's okay. We'll never know, and she won't know neither. Okay. But she's doing a great work, and I think it's at least the nomination is well deserved. And I just wanted to, send this message
Gain
to
some
everyone.
credit with Andrea. Yeah, yeah. Yep. So just to say that all of us are already voted in her, of course.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So
Yeah,
Very
uh,
well.
we already
yeah,
voted
yeah.
for her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last things.
Out.
Since the pilot and this time, we decided actually we had some ideas on how to change, and one of the things was actually to shorten it up to half an hour to be easier to consume and easier to have it on
Digest.
the go. Yeah, yeah, to digest because we are too intense. And another thing that we also wanted to do is we wanted actually to bring one more person.
Exactly.
So
Into the
would like to
relationship.
exactly. So at the moment we are three of us, and someone has black bars on the side. We never know who it is. Only Herman
It's the
knows.
people. It's the people watching at home.
Exactly. And we would like to bring one person for that corner. And we were thinking that each session we would bring one invitee, and we would have a discussion with that person about various topics, and it will be very interesting, or we think that it will be very interesting.
Yeah,
So
at
if
least
you'd like
someone
to
that understands what
participate,
they are talking about, right?
uh,
Yeah, so there will be one more clueless person.
Exactly.
true, true, true. And what else? So how often are we going to do this, by the way?
Monthly, monthly probably. Yeah. Let's
So
start
for
with
now,
monthly.
yeah, let's
Yeah,
start with monthly, which gives us well a few weeks to find the first victim
Yeah,
friend
exactly.
that's going to join us.
choose.
Choose. Yeah, yeah. So do as Ruben said, do reach out to us if you'd like to be part of the madness, and we'll keep you guys posted when the next one is coming up. And I guess that's basically it for today,
That's.
right, guys?
I think so. Yeah, yeah. Let's
Yeah,
not bore
All
people
right.
anymore.
All right. Okay.
true.
So here's to a great 2020, and that's us signing off. And see you next time.
Bye bye.
Somewhere here.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye.